going on, guys? Stirred IT. Safety first, safety first. Today's drink is the Woo Woo, and as usual, I will be using dry ice. Alright, so I'm not going to use any measurements on this one. 1 shot of vodka, 1 shot of peach schnapps, and the rest is just cranberry juice. That's what I'm talking about. Don't forget the lime. That last drop. All right. So in this video, we're going to talk about how you, starting from no experience, can get to $100,000 or more per year within 4 years. Stay tuned. This is the Woo Woo, and so I just want to give a little background on this drink. When I was stationed in Europe, over in England, I traveled to Dublin, Ireland, and this drink called the Woo Woo was on pretty much every menu at every bar they had. And it's really sweet, but it's also pretty strong, so I like the sweeter drinks. It is what it is. So you're probably wondering, like, is this for real? Can you really go from $0 to $100,000 per year in IT, starting with zero experience? And it's definitely a possibility. There's different ways of doing this, and I think the easiest way to do this is by joining the military. Now, some of you aren't in the United States, and some of you are opposed to joining the military, but hear me out for a second. So the military, you can sign up for a 4-year commitment. You can even go with the reserves, where you're not actively in the military all the time. You're just doing like 1 week in a month sort of thing, and then an additional 2 weeks a year. I joined the military back in 2014 as active duty full-time. It was probably the best decision I've ever made. I joined a 6-year contract as opposed to a 4-year contract. Against everybody's advice in my family, I signed a 6-year. I thought maybe the Air Force would be a career for me, and I didn't do it. So I ended up doing the 6-year instead of the 4. So the reason why I say the military is because you give a 4-year commitment. If you choose your career field going in, which I didn't, I can explain this another time, but if you choose your career field going into the Air Force, you can choose a very high demand IT job like a networking position. You can work on servers, you can work on clients, you can do red team, blue team. There's many options out there for you in IT. I'm just gonna speak on the Air Force side of it. So you sign up for 4 years, you go to basic training, it lasts about 8 weeks. It's kind of rough, but it's a good experience. From that point, you will go to what they call technical school, or tech school to be short. At tech school, you'll spend, depending on your career field, if it's in IT, most likely 6 months minimum, learning that job. So for me, I was what's called a cyber transport technician. I believe that's what it's called. And it was at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is where I met my wife, actually. You will learn everything from circuits to how to configure routers and switches. And yeah, it's a really good experience. 6 months of every day, 8 hours a day. You get fed well, you get lodging, you don't have to pay for any of that stuff. And you're getting paid about, I don't know, $35,000, $40,000 a year within your first 6 months of being in the Air Force. Once you graduate tech school, you will go to your first base if you're active duty, or if you're reserves, you'll go to your predetermined base from before you signed up. I was in tech school. I got my base in tech school. I didn't know where I was going to go. They sent me to England, a base called RAF Croughton, which is near Oxford, England. I was there for about 3 years. So you'll go to your first base. I went into a what they call a network shop, network infrastructure shop, and right off the bat, I got thrown into upgrading routers and switches. This was really good for me because I learned Cisco quickly. Now, you might not get this lucky. You might get put into another position that isn't so hands-on, but you can study a lot. The great thing about the Air Force is they have a lot of training opportunities, and if you really pursue it, you can get a lot of boot camps like Cisco. I went through CCNA, CCNP, I went through an MPLS course. I did fiber splicing, I did cyber warfare, cyber defense, bunch of trainings. So the Air Force was great for me. Like I said, I signed a 6-year, I probably should have done a 4. With that being said, when you get out of the Air Force, you have a GI Bill waiting for you, which will pay for your complete degree. And if you use what's called the post 9/11 GI Bill, they'll pay for your housing as well. So when you're in, they have something called tuition assistance, which will pay for your degree. And also they have something called Air Force Cool. With the Air Force Cool, it pays up to $4,500 for you to get certified in certifications that are relevant within your career field. So for me, I went for CCNA, CCNP. Depending on what you go into, if you work on servers, you might want to go into something like AWS. There's so many different options there, right? There's probably a list of 1,000 certifications that you could go for if you really want to. If you go into a career field like cyber warfare, you're going to get certified on SANS training. You're going to get a lot of additional trainings that would allow you to go take tests like the CISSP, so this is all really cool. Basically, what I'm saying is through the Air Force, you get a lot of hands-on experience on equipment that is very expensive. This equipment is very expensive. You get to touch billions of dollars. I want to say billions, maybe, tens of millions of dollars worth of equipment that, as if you come in at 18 years old, it doesn't really matter how old you are, but if you come in at 18 years old, you're touching stuff with zero experience other than technical school that you would never get the opportunity to do in the civilian side. The military was great. By the end of my 6 years, I was making probably about $50,000 a year, and then I joined the civilian workforce. I don't want to get into my salary too much, but if you have your Security Plus, which you get in tech school, and you go out and you study on your own and you get your CCNA or some other certification like CEH, Linux Plus, depending on what career path in IT you want to go, you'll have a security clearance, you'll have all these certifications, and if you start working towards college while you're in, over the 4 years, you could graduate. You go to a school like WGU, you could graduate with a bachelor's in 2 years with like 7 certifications. I didn't go to WGU, but I know a lot of people I did, and it was very successful for them. So I will make a video on WGU at a later time and everything that it offers for you. And this is a good route even if you're not in the military. WGU is a great option for you as you get a lot of certifications and college. Now the reason why I say this is because traditionally you go to a college and they don't include certifications and you have to study for the certs on the side. With WGU, you just pay for the class or the semester and you can take as many classes as you want. The thing about that is the classes are the certifications. So like, for example, you could get A+, Net Plus, Linux Plus, Security Plus, CCNA, CEH, the list goes on and on, right? So there's tons of certs that you get with WGU, and it's extremely cheap and it's self-paced. That's the other thing. So if you're working another job and you're trying to pay for your own living but go to school at the same time and learn and get certifications, you can do this with WGU because it's self-paced. Especially if you're a parent, you have kids, you have a crazy lifestyle, a lot of stuff going on. WGU is nice. It's not like a classroom environment where you have to go. Some people like that. I actually do like the classroom environment, but I also like the idea of being self-paced. So in my experience, I got my degree through a college called Colorado Technical University. I'm not endorsing them at all. I don't think the school is very great, but I did get my degree, and on the side I did get certifications like Cisco, CCNA, CCNP, Security Plus, and SANS certifications. So when I got out of the Air Force at 6 years, I had a security clearance, I had all these certifications, and my bachelor's degree. Now I set myself up for success to the point where if I wanted to re-enlist, I could, and I could go maybe officer route where I get more money in the military, or I could get out and make really good money. Starting in tech school, I was told, man, if you get out, you're gonna make over $100,000, and I didn't believe it. So when I was in tech school, it was funny because there was actually recruiters trying to poach people that were in reserves part-time to go work for their company because I knew they had a security clearance and they had certifications they needed. Like the DoD 8570 IAT Level 2 certification, which is Security Plus in this situation. The military is a great option. If you don't go military, look at WGU, get your certifications as quickly as possible. As in my last video, I spoke on Security Plus by CompTIA and why that is so important. Security Plus, right off the bat, you get Security Plus, takes you a couple months. If you really try, you could go make $65,000. So in this scenario, you did Security Plus, which took you 2 months, and then you go get a job on a base with a contractor or even off base with a contractor making $65,000 a year. If you do this for 6 months to a year and you go out and you get your CCNA or Linux Plus or start working towards other technical certifications, CEH, SANS certifications. At this point, every year you should be able to renegotiate your salary to the point where you are making $10,000 more every year. So you start off at 65 at the 2-month mark or 3-month mark, depending on your pace. And then every year you make $10,000 more. So after 1 year, you're making 75. After 2 years, you're making 85. After 3 years, you're making 95. And after 4 years, you're making over 100,000. This is the recipe to do this. You don't have to join the military to do it, but it's going to give you a lot more ins to these companies if you have military experience. And you'll get paid pretty well throughout, and you'll get a lot of benefits like the college, the tuition assistance while you're in, the medical benefits. When you get out, you might get disability depending on if you have any ailments or injuries through your military service. There are so many benefits available to veterans. If you take advantage of everything that's available to you through the military, you'll be good. You also get LinkedIn Pro for pretty much life, Safari Books Online for free for life. There's just so many free things available to you being a veteran. So I guess what I'm trying to say is go ahead and get your Security Plus no matter what. If you look into the military, if you have questions for me, please put them in the comments below. If not, as soon as you pass Security Plus, start applying for jobs that require Security Plus. These jobs will get you at least $60,000, $65,000 a year with zero experience. Now they might be short-term jobs like 1 year, 6 months, maybe even 2-year contract jobs. But with that being said, you're not necessarily looking to hold that job for more than 6 months to a year anyway. You're looking to get you an IT job to gain you more experience and to allow you to go get more certification, depending on which route you go. Any of these options will get you to 100,000. Whether you go networking with Cisco, you go security, whether it's through Cisco paired with like CEH, whether you go a higher Security Plus type thing like a CYSA or SANS certifications. You can go into information assurance where you're protecting data. There's so many different routes that you can go in. All of them are going to get you to 100,000. The key is it's all up to you. How much time that you dedicate to studying. If you're going for a degree, degrees definitely help. Although it's not necessary, a degree will definitely open up more doors for you. It's a lot easier to get a position if you have a degree in the certs than it is to just get one if you have the certs. I know experience is starting to play more of a role now, but again, they need people that have these certifications to fill these roles, as I mentioned in the Security Plus video. I'm afraid to drink it. I'm really afraid to drink it. Yeah, I'm not going to drink that. So if you get your Security Plus, let's say it takes you 2 to 6 months, 6 months being a long time, you can really do it a lot faster. You go get your CCNA, you can do that within 6 months. There's great materials out there. Go ahead and buy the Cisco Press books, or you can go through like Safari Books Online, which will allow you to pay like $50 a month, I believe, and that gives you unlimited books, and there's videos in there as well. Get your CCNA, 6 months, and then move on to like CCNP if you're going for networking, or you can go down a specific thread like CCNA security. You can go to CEH if you want to be a hacker or an ethical hacker, pen tester type role. I would also look into SANS certifications. There's a couple good ones out there like GSEC, that's GSEC, GSEC. That one's a very good cert as well. And then go down the SANS Path certifications. Either way, without spending more than a few $1,000s, that's stretching it. You should be able to get a handful of certifications and get a job paying at least $65,000 right off the bat. And then every year, you up your salary $10,000. During this time, you can buy a server, buy a little rack. You don't even need a rack. You put it on a countertop, and you can mess around with some virtualization, get familiar with that. You can install something like GNS3 on a virtual machine. You can install EVE-NG. You can mess around with routers and switches. You can get familiar and learn all this stuff without having to pay thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars to get a lab environment through like INE. I'm not saying those aren't good, but if you're tight on cash, you can save a lot of money by doing it yourself. You can buy one of these servers for like $100 and throw EVE-NG on there with some router and switch images and mess around and learn all this stuff on your own. The setup's a little tedious, but once you get it, you're good to go. You can do the same thing with Linux and Windows certifications. If you want to learn Linux, you can do it on a Windows machine, or you can even install a Linux virtual machine and mess around with commands in there. Basically what I'm trying to say is everything is available to you to do this without spending a lot of money. All you need to do is dedicate your time. The great thing about IT is you can go from one path to another path pretty easily. So if you start learning something and you decide you don't like it and you find out there's something else that you do like, you can switch over pretty easily and learn that career path. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you like my content so far. Now, you might be outside of the United States and you're wondering, okay, how can I do this without getting Security Plus and doing all this? Well, that's a really good question. I do think degrees are valued, but it depends on what country you're from and the type of position you're looking for. So first thing I would do is go look at some of the positions that are available that are entry level and see what the minimum requirements are. Now, if it's Cisco or Amazon certifications, you can easily go for those and get them quickly. Again, it costs a few $100s per certification, and with the books and everything, you might be in $400 or $500, and that's including a server if you have to lab. So for $500, you can get your foot into any career field you really want to in IT. Now, how you advance, that's up to you. How do you perform on day-to-day job? What sort of projects are you taking on? How well do you do them? How do people see you at your job? Doing that paired with continuing education, learning some certifications, that will continue to raise your salary. If you have questions about a specific career path, let's say you want to get into cyber, you want to get into networking, please put your question down below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. This thing's still bubbling. Oh, that's so good. Guys, it's like a Jolly Rancher. I don't know if you can see this glass, it's just frosted like all the way across. Now, what if you're not 18 years old? You probably shouldn't be drinking until you're 21, right? If you're under 18 and you're looking to get into IT, start now. Start learning this stuff now. Again, it doesn't matter if you're 16 or 55. You can start learning this right now. Go ahead and buy yourself a book, or go to Barnes & Noble, or go to a local bookstore, library, and rent this stuff and start learning it now. If you can take college classes while you're in high school or study CLEPs, that'll allow you to test out of college classes. Now, my experience with college isn't great. I feel like a lot of the classes that you take in college aren't necessary, and even the IT classes you take are outdated or just aren't up to par with the certifications. Try to get as much college done as you can, as quickly as you can before you get into college, and then when you do get into college, try to get out of those classes if you can by taking exams that cost like $60 or $70 like a CLEP. Try to streamline your college as much as possible. Again, I'm here rooting for you. I really think you can do it. You just got to put the time forth and you will make it happen. Study, keep studying. If you fail, keep going. You're gonna fail, and if you don't fail, then I guess that's good for you, but you really do want to fail to learn. Somebody told me that once. You really got to fail. You got to make mistakes in order to learn the most. So when I first got into the Air Force, I was afraid to type commands in. I was afraid I was going to break a system, breaking down, and get in trouble. I had too much fear of failing to the point where I wouldn't even attempt stuff. So schedule the exams. If you're going for Security Plus, schedule it 2 months out. Pay for it, set the exam date, and make a schedule. Go ahead and study every day for it and follow that schedule. I would rather see you guys schedule an exam for $300 and fail it and learn that I didn't study enough and go back and take it again than to never take the exam at all. This is the approach that I have been taking in regards to certifications. I schedule the exam out, I pay for it in advance, and then I make myself study and I don't reschedule the exam. If I fail it, then I go back and I study again. I set an exam date and I study until that date. You're just gonna wing it basically. Study as much as you can and go in doing your best. This is the fastest way to advance your IT career, but make sure you understand the concepts that you're learning. I know that sounds dumb, but some people just study the concepts to pass the exam and they don't study the concepts to actually understand them. If you have any questions for me, just put them below. I'm here to help you. Until next time. Oh, and put your recommendations below on what sort of drink you want me to make for the next video. Again, it can be cocktails, it can be beer, it can be coffee, it can be lattes. So go ahead and put that in the comments below and I will definitely take into consideration your opinions because nobody's given me one yet. So I would love to make a drink that somebody recommends.